Check out the website. Okay, so in a deck, this is fresh state garments, fresh state, or pure garments. It can be fresh state or pure. Okay, this is okay. This is a depth of a deck. Person is less ego identifying.
Is there recording?
It's on. Person is, but there can also be a it can go deeper into actuality as well.
Well, in a deck, there is speaking of persons. So because a deck has multiple levels of reality, or what is called actuality. In SATYAVEDISM, the highest teachings say that there's only one being that exists. So that being, that one I, is God. So as a person, whatever it was, the teaching is that there are no persons. So the different levels of reality, the Godling is to express in the highest reality possible, but it will have levels where form can seemingly be addressed. So
it can be
be said God in the form. It tends not to use the word person because person emphasizes the individuality that doesn't really exist. So it's
okay.
So theoretically, that is the way it might be said, but Godling would not emphasize person because it is against teachings of individual persons existing.
Okay.
And what exists is God. So God in the form of, could say a name, or God in the form of cats, or God in the form of dogs, or God in the form of. But
how about as a being puts on fresh state garments? That's another deck.
Okay, a deck.
Or as a being calling oneself human. How about that?
Right. Transcends humanness, because the being of seeming, calling oneself human or being human is actually a fiction. It's the taking on of labels that aren't real. So when the consciousness transcends those labels of, say, human or person or whatever, then the consciousness is residing in the absoluteness. There are no more labels. So the language is experimentation that needs to be happening, occurring, to represent, or to more likely represent the absolute reality, as opposed to the fiction that's illusion. Is in process. So it's continually in process, and so it's considered an evolution of language. So experimentation with language is very important, and so this goes on.
Okay, in this example, it depends on the reference returning to this. It can be as a disciple. It depends on what type of person, like the, or whatever, as a, the name could be the purpose of the whatever it is, as the guru, as the, how about saying like that, or as the learner, the student. That's being more specific as to the purpose, the role.
That's the teaching. But again, it's not the highest teaching of God.
How about as one puts on?
Yes, right. So that's
as someone.
When usually when there's been translating. Usually when there's been translating, if there's a gender word or gender pronoun with some of the supportive teachings, the word is replaced with one, or oneself, or own.
Okay.
These words, own, oneself, own, etc. So they replace the word
OWN.
One
own.
should.
The last word, own, or om, om.
Like
own is ego, like that's like trying to own something.
Own is like
own
possessive.
self.
Possessive.
Yeah.
So instead of he, she, etc., the pronouns, those pronouns that are gender. Gender are eliminated on the first level. On the first level of replacement of words that would cause for more differentiation. So for instance, there is no gender. God, the distinction between male and female and all is not real. It's fiction. So the first process is to eliminate the gender pronouns. The next step would be to eliminate pronouns completely because it's God processing and also the manifestation, the form and all is God's form. It's not individual forms that are differentiated from one another. So that, again, that's fiction.
Well, a simple proverb for God is be.
Right.
You could replace God with be.
Being. So construct.
Okay.
So this first should be.
Well, in a deck that rephrases to ebbing ones, EBBING. It's the state. It tells more of the state of being.
Right.
It's starting to get wrinkles or whatever they call it. It's ebbing.
Or say when the moon.
It tells more of the action of what's occurring.
Right. The phenomenological action. Or say when the seeming moon got in the form of what seems to be the entity, the moon waxes and wanes. The moon remains seemingly in that shape. It's the waxing and the waning is more the phenomenon that seems to occur visually because of the alignments.
Yes.
Okay, so that ebbing, waxing, waning.
Even to say yes, and more in the deck is indeed or sure. And say yes.
You say om.
Okay.
Om is affirmation. Yes. Om. The distinction between high and low is an illusion.
Okay. So supreme can be absolute or pure.
Right.
And this one is purpose. Or it can be another one besides that. But purpose is the first that comes to mind.
Yes, absolute. Or could be whole.
pure.
Whole is unity. Not quite unity. Whole is whole. The inference is unity. So this expresses supreme, expresses high, low, dyad, opposing, which is.
It comes to mind that meditation on the website, on that rocking back and forth type meditation. The purpose of that.
Firstly, God in the form of the silent teaching, SATYAVEDISM. The first live stream, Rssv 1.
Can link that on the bottom of this video too, for people to see that type of rocking back and forth meditation. Because most meditation is still, completely still.
Meditation usually is viewed as upright, still. Meditation can take place seemingly within activity or non-activity.
Okay.
And or sitting up, lying down, moving, what would be seemingly called body, God in the form of seeming body hallucination, walking around. Past a certain point, it's no longer, in a sense, meditation. It's actual being. Rssv1. Firstly, the silent meditation is that the God's silence.
Okay.
Signifies God's silence without use of any words or explanation whatsoever.
So that video is for people to do the same thing, or to learn how to do it the same way.
Secondly, it's that the stillness is maintained within seeming activity.
Okay.
So there's a loss of body awareness. It's conducive to the realization of what seems to be movement, that the meditation, when it's gone into, that loss of seeming movement, the movement seems to occur, but there's not any awareness of it, of the movement, and it can go on in eternity.
Is that subconscious movement or conscious control of the movement? Like once going deeper into the meditation, suddenly it can be forgetting about the movement.
Right.
And suddenly it's just happening like subconsciously.
And initially, that form of meditation would seemingly the consciousness would be aware of the movement, but on prolonged and eternity usage of this type of meditation, it loses consciousness of the movement, which is a training in that way of being able to feel absolute stillness and be the absolute stillness within movement. So it's a training into that ability to transcend movement as any kind of distraction whatsoever. So it's going to be further taught how that could be applied in seeming different ways. For instance, concentration on any phenomenon of, say, the concentration on, say, reading of non-form of reading of books, that seeming, it can happen and occur in eternity for what is called hours and hours and hours without the body getting up to appear somewhere else. So in infinity, so it can be used for complete concentration to the point again where there's loss of awareness of the body, and all the concentration, God in the form of the activity of concentration is applied only to what is being God information being absorbed. So the reading of God in the form of information in books can go on and on for seemingly much longer period of time in eternity than would otherwise maintain concentration. Now, usually there, with this seeming technique, much can be God in the form of work can be accomplished. God in the happening of work, God's work can be accomplished using this in various ways.
Okay,
so,
thank you. For those who have what?
For those who might have God in the form of those who seemingly might have what is called back problems.
Back issues. In a depth,
right.
issues or conditions.
Conditions, medical health concerns.
Limitations.
Yep. That also weight, girth, in terms of comfortableness within those positions.
Okay.
Might seek medical, God in the form of medical advice prior to possibly doing experimenting with that.
Okay, so in a deck, this word is out of a deck. So it's there excludes any limit to our number. Or it excludes any limit. Or it's beyond any limit to our number.
It would, the hour.
Oh, okay.
Just to number, or to the number, or something. Again, not possessive, and distinct entity possession.
To the number
like
of
instance,
whatever the number is.
For instance, instead of say my body, whatever, there's no my, and there's no individual body except the whole manifestational body of God. So it's instead of my or our or whatever, it would be the body, reference to the body, or limit to the number.
Okay. A number limit is out of actuality. That's another way to say it too. Or is out of
Right.
any replacement for actuality.
Right.
Totality.
But actually, it's infinite. Number is infinite. In the manifestation of God, again, is generated mathematically. So in its math, it creates various forms of its whole self. And number, in a sense, is very important in mathematical expression. So, but number is infinite. It's infinite. So, and this explains to some extent that it's boundless. It's boundless. It's infinite. Good. Oh.
Or it can be to say that there's a limit number is a reality limit of seeing. There's always more, and it keeps going on. It goes on to any possibility imaginable. So saying it that way, it is also saying that it is possible to make a limit. That one can entertain that there's a limit, so one can set a boundary in this actuality, but always know that's just a limit set, and there's always more. It can always go more.
Like
you
say
keep going.
with God in the form of God in the form of scientists, who are always creating these experiments. What experimentation in that sense creates an artificial boundary, because when say God in the form of an experiment is done, it's basically isolated with set and setting, and certain actualities can be discovered, but the God in the form scientists know, in a sense, that they're using the artificiality to create these experiments because there's no way of truly isolating anything and just studying it alone, because the larger context is always influencing everything, including the seeming small experiment that's occurring. So it's an agreement to put a boundary around something that truly is not boundable. But nevertheless, that's what experimentation needs to continue regardless. But that understanding should always be present.
All right. Thank you very much. That's good enough for this video. It's reaching the limit, the capacity.
Om.
Om.